I don't think that young people want to work in an environment that is hostile.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of the Jeff Heilman Project. We're so excited that you're here. We're excited to be here. It has turned seasons to fall. However, our weather wouldn't be a witness of that.
89 degrees today.
God, I think it was like 90
September.
something. Anyways, it's still hot. I hope it's not too hot where you're at. And our hearts go out to anybody affected by the hurricanes that are happening. 'Tis to be that season. We're praying for you. We're thinking about you. But before we get started with today's episode, I always like to ask, Mr. Heilman, how was your week?
Week was good. I'm trying to think. I don't even know what day it is. Tuesday.
October or whatever. What was that from Old
McDonald.
School?
Yeah.
Is it from Old School?
Old School. He's on Quaaludes or something, and he said, "What day is it? October."
October. Yeah, that's how it feels sometimes, especially when you're just going day in and day out.
Yeah, we've been going hard. It's end of quarter at work and grinding. Got a deal. I mean, life could be worse than having a deal that you're trying to bring in at the end of the quarter, because you could be at the end of the quarter and you don't have a deal to try to bring in. So, so I don't mind it at all. It's actually nice to have enough work to be really, really busy. But the last week, I don't even know what I did last week.
Well, you took a shower today, so that was good.
That was good. I didn't remember the last one that I'd taken before today.
So those of you at home that are in the season,
Anybody work from home?
Those
Is there
of you that
anybody
are
listening today that may or may not have changed your underwear this week?
We recognize seasons.
Thing.
Speaking of seasons, like that is it. It's a busy season. It can be a pretty busy season. A big part of what we do here at the Jeff Heilman Project, initially the JHP, the Jeff Heilman Project, started out as a way to encourage entrepreneurship and business owners, and then it kind of morphed into humanities, and now 60 plus episodes into it, we're finding more of our groove. And a big part of what you do is you encourage and equip those who are in corporate America with like how to survive corporate America, because it's a massive engine. It will swallow you up whole, and you will feel as if you are struggling and then kind of on the brink of like, I don't know how to own a business. This is all I know. And so I wanted to talk today, perhaps if you could share some of your survival tactics, because what I've seen throughout the 30 years of watching you in corporate America grow in corporate America is like you started out as a 20-something kid who was customer facing, and it was all about like the door to door and the getting Mr. Jones to yes, face first. And then throughout your career, it changed, it morphed, and now you hardly ever talk to customers, and if you do, it's usually like
not in person.
Exactly. If you do talk to the customer, it's usually a team. It's like the executive who's overseeing like tons of other. It's not business to business customer, sales guy to customer. So is there anything that if you could look back at 20-year-old Jeff, or even those that might be listening or watching, male, female, any kind of survival tactics on like getting through the end of the year, getting through a quarterly business review, or getting through the end of the year fiscal calendar switch? Like there's a lot to unpack in this lesson of life and surviving corporate America. Like what are some of your survival tactics for those that might be listening that are in corporate America and just wanting to live to fight another day?
Survival tactics. I think the first thing that came to mind is to realize that just because you have a job that's paying you a base salary of, let's call it $120,000 a year, which I think most high-tech jobs pay. They pay a really high base salary compared to most jobs. When I think about corporate America, I think about tech. I think the hardest part for most people is to realize that base salary that's double or triple what their neighbors are making is actually the absolute minimum that it would cost to replace that person. And to never forget that, to never forget that your employer looks at you and says, how can I get another 10 minutes, another 2 hours, another 10 minutes a day, another 2 hours of work out of this person, more productivity out of this person, and pay them less. And if they could find a way to do it, you would be gone before they finish their first morning cup of coffee on Monday. And that's not a dig against corporate America at all. Corporate America has been great. It's allowed me to travel the world for free. It's allowed me to raise 7 children and live in a very expensive place in Silicon Valley, and have a wife that stays home and does whatever the kids need her to do or whatever she wants to do. So it's not a dig against corporate America, but to put it in perspective and realize that, if you're making $100,000 a year and your employer, if you went to your employer and said, you know what, I think I'm only worth 98. Like, great, I'll let payroll know immediately. Like they would do it so fast because they need every dollar they can in order to run their business, and employees are the most expensive portion of any business.
What would you say if somebody, this is just this, like, what advice would you give somebody who's looking to take a new job and would like to negotiate a package, or like in the signing, like when they're getting their job and they're getting an offer, like how do you negotiate that moment of,
Maybe this is a bad negotiation on my part, but first thing you'd realize is they already know what they're going to pay you. They have a band, they have a range, and it's usually a range of plus or minus $5,000. So, for somebody to negotiate a package, now if you're a CEO of a public company and you're asking for $30 million a year instead of $27 million a year, that's a different. That's not a level that I've participated
do
in
you
personally.
encourage negotiating? A lot of people will just like, oh, they're so excited that they get the job that they'll take whatever is given to them. Like, should
I
you?
think so. But corporate America is so regimented that it's like this job pays between 100 and 105. So you can pick a number anywhere in there and you're going to be in the ballpark. If it's less than that, the employer will be thrilled. If it's more than that, the employer is going to wonder, if they want 110. God, that's just, I don't know. We don't have that in the budget. And they'll pass. A lot of times they'll pass over $5,000. I've been in situations where I was asking for market rate for where I live, which is an expensive area of town, and it could be $20 or $30 or $40,000 over what they've got budgeted. And sometimes it takes them 6 months to come up with enough budget to do it, or they just say no, even though I'm asking for market rate. When I went to Oracle, I took a pay cut. I think I took a $40,000 pay cut to go to Oracle on my base salary, because Oracle is very, very, very leveraged. Now, if you perform, I made more working for Oracle than I'd made at any other company over a 4-year run. But it was because of performance.
Is it wise to ask for, like, if they come back and if they counter and they're like, no, we can't do that? Is it wise to ask for maybe a higher percentage of commissions, or can you try to make it up?
You certainly can. I think the main thing that I've found that's done my negotiating for me is the work. The 7-figure and 8-figure deals that I've done that have made it easy for me to go in and say to a potential employer, this is what it takes to get these deals across the line. Love to understand what you're looking for and what your pipeline looks like in a patch that you want covered. And then you take a look at it and you make it all about them. And they usually give you the top of whatever the band is. But in sales, in my life in sales, there's the negotiation is mostly with the customers, because I'll go in and I'll get the top of the band. I've been getting the top of the income band for probably 10 or 12 years. But it's just the base salary. Everything else after that's incentive compensation. So I don't know. My experience negotiating has really been around just getting people to pick me over somebody else in a job that already has a predetermined income range, and then just go try to blow out the comp plan if you can. But getting back to the thought about that your base salary is the lowest that they could pay you to replace you. That's not a negative at all. It's my hope in making that comment is that it would be liberating for you to recognize, oh, if they're paying me, let's say it's $100,000. If they're paying me $100,000 a year, that means they're making like $500,000 a year off of my effort.
Yeah.
And I have a close friend that's been in some pretty astute rooms with guys worth $50 and $100 billion. And he said to me one time, he's like, the funniest thing is the more you produce, the smaller percentage of what you produce you actually get to keep. To the point where Satya Nadella, he makes 50 million or 100 million a year, right? But he's bringing in hundreds of billions of dollars of increased revenue, which is equating to trillions of dollars of increased market capitalization.
So I saw a New York Times article today which talked about the new CEO of Starbucks has 1,000-mile commute because he gets on a jet airplane every single day. He lives in California and he flies every day and he negotiated this as part of his package is the jet airplane for commuting 1,000 miles to get to work every day.
I'm like, you said he had a 1,000-mile commute. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm sitting there, I have pictures of Siberia in my mind. I'm like,
no, like,
big house.
No,
I better get the way.
Okay.
Apparently he does.
Okay, that's from Muppets Most Wanted. But
the frog is liking
and
this news.
It was interesting because there were a lot of comments, obviously, negative, like, oh, they should pay their employees, but they should reduce his salary.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the haters just love the fact he's burning $30,000 a day.
He should just live in
fuel.
Seattle and show up, walk to work like everybody else.
He should be normal,
exactly.
like all of us people that have nothing better to do than criticize people online. So what do you
think about, what do you think about a person that's clearly bringing in, was hired to bring in so much revenue that they can afford?
I hope his pilot gets a big bonus because you don't want that guy getting sleepy at the wheel.
They can afford to pay for aircraft travel every day.
They probably they just paid for jet. They just paid for jet. They just paid for jet fuel again. I think
that our viewers and I think that the majority of people really do need to realize that there is such wealth.
Oh my goodness.
We get trapped into this mentality that that milk is so expensive and that we can't, we can barely and that's a huge reality to a lot of people is that, they don't have very much, but there is so much available that to some people, like you said, blinking and, that's, blinking.
Starbucks, literally, I don't know.
Blinking $1 million.
Revenues are. The revenues are $60 billion, $80 billion, $100 billion.
Yeah, and at that point.
He's probably burning, if he lives in California, he's probably burning 10 grand or 12 grand a day in jet fuel. But if he's working, let's say he works, what's 200 times 10,000? Well, 2 times 10,000 is 20.
Just think about that.
200,000, 2 million? That's not even
whatever
15,
whatever
20%
camera is looking at me, I pay. I know.
You don't spend that much in jet fuel.
The Nespresso pods, the Starbucks Nespresso pod.
Yeah.
There's like 8 of them, and it's $10 for 8 Nespresso pods of Starbucks coffee.
Did you think about?
And that's literally, if I opened it, it's like ground. I know. You can put hating comments in the comments. That's like a tablespoon of ground coffee
for $2.
I'm paying $2 for it. Yeah. Like that's why this guy can. That's why they can put in his package.
If you think about,
that's just me. That's just one person.
I've oftentimes thought, like, what does one guy or one gal that runs a company really do that's worth $20 million or $50 million a year? But the thing is, if they could grow the business as fast as they want to grow the business without a top leadership position filled, they would. They would put that money back. They're not stupid. All 5,000 of the global 5,000 companies all pay their CEOs tens of millions of dollars a year. They're not that. We're talking about the best people in finance in the world. They're not all retarded, and they just don't get it. They just don't get that they don't have to be paying that. Well, if it's 5,000 of the richest people in the history of the universe, and they all don't get the same principle that Farley and Matilda have, critical comments about somebody paying
You have a
30
friend who
million,
shall
40
remain
million
nameless
years
who's
a
been
year.
interviewing for a position in a bank that's a paid couple
do.
$1 million position. What
Yeah.
does he say? Like what he must believe that he can contribute to the like what does he see himself doing in that role, receiving a 7-figure salary as a CEO or a CRO or whatever? Like does he
I
see
think
himself adding that much
there's-
value? Is his self-image that high above
Yeah.
like everybody else's
Yeah.
self-image?
Effectively, at that point, what you're doing is culture.
Mm.
You're impacting the culture of an organization of people that are doing stuff. And some people could say, oh, this hippie Jeff that lives in California, he's talking about woo-woo stuff, right? But there is a constituency of people. Some people show up to work, they take the emotion out of it, they do their job, they push people around, and they don't care. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are like, they probably wouldn't listen to this podcast, but they'd be like, I don't care if I piss people off. I'm there to do my job, and I'm going to do my job whether they like it or not. And that seems to work for a lot of people. But when I think about culture, I think about going back to the post-World War II era and how you have this modern industrial complex that's just booming. And there are hundreds and thousands of cities across the world, America having hundreds of them by themselves. And they're buying houses and they're buying cars. People are spending money. They haven't been able to live their lives for years and years. And now all at once, they all get to live their life all at once. And you think about these stories like Ralph Lauren talking about growing up in Brooklyn in the 50s, and he wore cool clothes, and he had pegged jeans and Converse, and he would play ball. He was a ball player. He'd play basketball, baseball. And sorry, he didn't grow up in Brooklyn. He grew up in the Bronx.
Mm.
This sense of wanting to be something, wanting to do, wanting to be, wanting to impress your friends with doing something amazing, impress girls, learn how to play guitar, just to be something. And I think that this generation, maybe not the Xers, but Gen Y and the millennials, I think they want to feel that way. I think they want to travel and experience life and do something amazing. I think they're certainly more politically aware and self-aware. They care more about the environment. They care more about experiences and spending time with friends and traveling, I think, than our generation did. It's certainly more available to them because of more plane travel and Uber and all kinds of cool experiences that are available now that didn't exist when I was a kid. But I think people really this next generation really wants to do amazing things and travel and live life. And I think there is a sensitivity that makes culture a topic that I don't think we really want to ignore how important that is. I don't think 1950s, 1960s, working more blue collar, tougher. I think men were tougher. I think women were possibly more feminine back in that time than now. I think they were allowed to be. I think it was okay to be. Now I think being more more masculine, I think it's potentially frowned upon sometimes. But if we think about the young people coming up, and you think about wanting to be something and do something, I don't think that young people want to work in an environment that is hostile, that's aggressive, whether that's sexual harassment or people that are not tolerant of diversity. And so when I look at these CEOs that are making these big dollars, I mean, they have a way of doing things that they've been successful at larger companies. And there's a lot of competition for those top jobs, but there's also a lot of competition for the top culture setters. In design, you're looking for trendsetters. In manufacturing, you're looking for, or high tech, you're looking for innovation setters. But in large companies, where your culture might be hurting, you're looking for culture setters. You're looking for people who have a theme or a way about them that makes other people feel comfortable. And that's why I think they pay the big dollars.
Yeah. So we've talked at length in the last few weeks, at least, about community and now we're talking about culture. And would you feel that how much percentage do you think is fitting into the culture for your survival in corporate America? Like, is that like something that does it just mean fitting into the culture and like going to the events when you're invited to the events, or your team's chats and being a part, coming off as a buddy, or like, creating, being a part of the culture? Like, what does that help you keep, in your opinion, does that help you keep your job longer, or does it help you just feel more satisfied? Like, is that an internal piece that comes, or is it job
I
security
think
thing? Because
I think
there's a
that
lot of people that don't know to assimilate into groups. There's a lot of wild ducks out there that just want to do their own thing. But it sounds as if it's almost like the new corporate America is so much more intertwined and familial than it's been in the past.
well, I'll tell you what it has been, at least for the last couple of years for me, is it's international.
Mm.
And that's something that didn't really exist. Like right now at work, I've got friends that I talk to every single day over Teams, which is Microsoft Teams, Slack, same thing. And they live in Turkey, Amsterdam. I'm just thinking of the ones I talked to today. The countries represented by the people I talked to today: Turkey, Italy, Amsterdam, London, Berlin, Paris, Spain, Portugal, Chile, Peru, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, both coasts on the U.S., Canada. That was just today. That's unheard of for me to be. Now, granted, the nature of the work that we're doing, private equity, and we have a global business with a global footprint that's doing things at scale internationally, because that's where the changes are coming from a legislation standpoint that our software maps to. But that was never my role.
Well, it
when
sounds
I was
like the
at
pandemic
Oracle.
changed the face of not just the world, but it changed the face of how work gets done around the world. Because I have walked in to our, the room, and I've seen everybody all around the globe has a Zoom set up office in their house. That
Yeah.
was something that was never that was something that I don't know that anybody could foresee. Like
Yeah.
10 years ago, would you have even believed that you would be having like a legitimate corporate meeting in your bedroom with 5 countries? And this isn't just
Never.
this isn't a joke. This is like
No.
a
If I go
legitimate
20 years
corporate
ago,
meeting.
20 years, I knew it was coming. And keep in mind, too, 20 years ago, I was at Cisco.
Yeah.
Cisco, we had telepresence. We had rooms that you would go into in the office
Yeah.
to have a video
But
conference.
even then, I don't know that we would have said, like, there
wouldn't have
will
thought
be
you
a
could do
day
it.
that you're going to be in your underwear, you're going to be in your chonies,
I'm not admitting to
you're going to
anything.
be
I
doing Zoom
disavow
calls.
any knowledge. No. I would not have thought that if I couldn't get my laptop tethered to my cell phone fast enough while I'm at Whole Foods having lunch, getting ready for my video call, that I could just default to my Bluetooth auto-adjusting Apple headphones that pick up the signal from my Teams conferencing software on my phone, on my cell phone, and then I can be on video that way in case the other one doesn't work.
Do you think it
Seconds,
helps
that's-
people that they can does it help corporate America that you could literally be on the beach and doing a call with a green screen and nobody even knows? I mean, is
I
that
think-
helping or is that hurting?
I think it absolutely helps, because it means it gives employees a false sense of freedom. And so it allows companies to push them even harder and reach them even more often for even longer hours at even more disruptive times of the day, and have it just be like today. I was up working at 2:30 in the morning, and I worked my last scheduled phone call ended at 4. So
Do you think that you would work like that if you didn't have global accounts where you have time zone differences? Do you think you would
I
still
don't think
do
I
it?
could, because if there's nobody working, if it was just California, there's
Yeah.
nobody working. Now, when I was at IBM doing consulting for Pfizer, once a week I would have a 5:30 conference call that I would jump on because with the guys in New York. But other than that, no, we did everything starting at
So how do you
8 or
survive?
8:30.
How do you keep from getting swallowed up?
Let me try to give you some answers for that. I think that's a really good question. I think number one is you got to take a look at what your values are. My values are very stable because I took the time to figure out what they were. And it doesn't matter what my values are to anybody else, but what matters is what your values are and that you know what they are. And I'll give you an example. If you have, a husband's probably going to value money and his career above anything else, and a wife is going to value the kids, right? If you look at the top 3 things that a guy's thinking about, cash flow, making sure he can stay solvent. Number 2, the success of his business, which secures the cash flow. And then number 3, long-term financial stability so that he can someday afford to put his kids in college and have a nice car and a country club membership. I would say those, if you look at where a guy spends most of his time and effort and physical and mental energy.
In a traditional
Yeah,
scenario.
in a traditional scenario, I would say that, right? What's traditional anymore, right? Who knows? I know a lot of gals that make all the money and their husbands stay home and take care of the kids and they're fine with it. So, but in a traditional scenario, in our scenario, which is pretty traditional, that's what I can speak to with any authority on it because that's how we live. But I think, and I think number 1 you would say would be kids' health, and number 2 would be kids' activities, and then number 3 would be kids' education, or something. And I'm not saying those are your values. I'm saying that if all of a sudden, if you say, hey, little Johnny needs something, and that's going to take money out of the bucket, like that's not my values. What's wrong with the shoes he's got, right? If that were the case. And so what happens is you start getting tension, and everybody goes through this. But I think if your values are not clarified, then it's really easy for people to push you around to where you start getting angry at the work that you're having to do. That's number 1. So
Do
number
they
1,
need do they need to be clarified to you or clarified to others?
I think they just
others
need to be
clear
clarified no, because
about
if I'm
your
clear about
values.
my values and you're encroaching on them, you're gonna
Okay.
you're gonna find out what my values are, right? My values are I'm gonna be at the golf course, so don't call me. I mean, if that's what somebody's values are, right? So understanding your values is the number one most important thing. And I think you can go to Maslow's hierarchy and get a pretty good boilerplate for values with that. Then I'm going to make a statement. Most people are going to hate it, and that's okay.
It's okay because it's the Jeff Heilman
It's my show.
project.
It's my show.
Exactly.
And I can say what I think is right. It's not just I can say whatever I want. I can say I have the permission from myself to say what I think is necessary to be said. 98% of the people in life will get to the end of their life having failed for the most part to accomplish perhaps what they truly, desperately wanted more than anything else. And 2% of the people will get to the end of their life and basically be able to say that they got it done. They did what they wanted to do. Is it absolute? Pretty much. I mean, according to the Social Security Administration, most people, when they get to 65, after 40 or 45 years of working, have less than $1,200 in their checking account. And they're dependent on friends, neighbors, relatives, or the government to survive if they don't die, which is about half of them. And to me, I heard that statistic when I was like 17 or 18 years old. And I was like, I'll be fit to be tied if that's me. There's no chance that I'm going to allow that to be me. No chance. I am, in my mind, going to make a clear petition every single day of my life that I'm going to get up and have a plan and go to work and put my shoulder into that work and be driving along the lines of a definite major purpose every single minute of every single day of my life, or die trying, so help me God, because I did not want to end up a statistic when I was a kid. And I would say that, jury's still out, right? I'm not 65. We had another 15 years to go for that. But I think that we put enough momentum in place because I had a definite driving major purpose in my life that burns to this day. That's never changed. It's never gone out. It's never gone away. It's never gotten quieter or dimmer. And so when you understand what your values are and then you have a definite purpose or a goal that you're going after or a series of little goals, I think that allows you to have the kind of resilience that you need in order to survive, and especially in corporate America. Because corporate America, they're not there for the free potato chips, right? They're there to make money, and some people are there to push people around and impose their will on others because their sense of satisfaction and meaning comes from power, and that's okay too. Like, and they can push other people around if they want. They can try to push me around if they want, and we all learn how to deal with people in those scenarios as best we can. And then the third thing that I would say for me, besides having a burning, driving desire to succeed and clarity on my values, is you and the kids having a family life that allows you to take the edge. And when I say the edge, I mean, I don't work 16 hours every day, but,
Well, it seems to go through seasons.
I work.
There's definitely
I work
more.
a lot of hours.
When you're getting closer to closing a deal, there seems to be a lot more
yeah.
hours, and then
Plus, there's a time when you're not physically at work and you're thinking about it in your mind, right?
Yeah.
So
having a support system is definitely, like, that's a part of a big reason why we encourage assembling, whether it's through a church or through even a golf club or social club.
I do know a lot of single people in their 30s now, and it's amazing to me because by the time we got in our 30s, we'd been married 10 years and had 4 kids. So it's difficult for me to relate to coming home from work or getting off your Zoom call and not having Grand Central Station downstairs to go and plug into a movie or plug into dinner or plug into a chess game going on or listening to Andrew playing piano or Teddy and Nessie playing or Washington on the video games with Jeffrey on the chat on his headphones, Jeffrey over in Hawaii playing chat, or Madeline coming in, click, clink, on the fence when she's driving across the fence line. So it's just always been there. I mean, I've always had this noise in the background. It's a beautiful noise. And when I say noise, I don't mean it negatively at all. It's a beautiful sound of life in our house with the 7 kids. Jeffrey's moved out now, but with the 7 kids and the dogs and the cats and the TV and the screaming and the jumping and the play and the food and the smell. And you started bringing out the pumpkins and the fall stuff this week, cleaning, and just the smell of cleaning supplies and candles and fabric and wool blankets and stuff. Like, our house is full of life. And so that has been, like, how could I not go hard all day, every day at work when I've got this home that is the wellspring of my emotional support?
I definitely would encourage anyone who, like Jeff says, is in their 30s or single or whatever, like,
we're not mad, by the way.
No,
we're not mad at you. We love you.
What I'm encouraging would be that you would be able to find a community if you live in an apartment building. I know a lot of apartment buildings have, social things, meetups, and
all kinds of
and
stuff.
Just being able to go to be a part of, not just, it's so easy to get into our habit of, like, go lift weights and then go home, but there's so many, like, classes that you can join with other people, it has become such a norm to be reclusive and to be withdrawn, especially with being a remote worker or a hybrid worker and just, like, living in your little cave, that maybe this year, maybe this next fiscal year, maybe going into 2025, we can all be kind of take a value assess of where we're at communal wise and begin to develop a CQ, if you will, a communal quotient, and, like, be able to evaluate where we are based on our community quotient and see, like, are we growing? And maybe if we're not growing, it's because we're not involved in our community isn't growing. So,
well, I would say that's a big part of it. Sometimes you can find friends at work, but I would encourage people
and plus
to find people
with
outside
everybody,
of work.
I mean, there's so many, like you said, there's like people from different cities and different countries, and like it's not as easy as it
I'll
used
tell
to
you,
be.
as much as I've tried to be a realist about corporate America. Like, it ain't always better when you own the business. I mean, I have friends of mine that have sold their business for tens and hundreds of millions of dollars, and you have to join country clubs,
Yeah, you got to do
Ferrari
something.
club,
You
go
got
on
to do something.
vacation, because everybody's working all the
And
time.
then what's funny
all
is
their friends are
you
working.
have a lot of friends who are in their own businesses who sold their businesses and then they went and got a job.
I do.
Just
I have
so
friends
that
that
they
have went
can
and got a
have
job
friends.
because they don't have any friends.
Exactly.
So it's like, God, I'm in corporate America working for free compared to what they're making off of me. If we're doing any kind of, if we're productive, if we're as productive as we should be, and corporate America should be making money off of you. Should be making money off of me too. They're taking the risk of giving us a job, healthcare benefits, all the administrative staff they have to hire in order to manage the productivity.
I've seen like our friend Pietro, like he's Italian, but he does adult soccer league. Like there's like the Italians do soccer league. You got bocce ball. I mean, how many pictures? Like if we were gonna take an Instagram snapshot of like successful 80-year-olds, it's like a bunch of Italians standing around a bocce ball or lawn bowling, or maybe you got a bunch of little grandmas with their my grandma was in the bowling league, and she has her little 8-pound ball and she's like 80 years old and she's got her girls and they're going bowling. So like let's like get a picture of what community looks like just to help us get through life.
Yeah.
And do life together.
I think that community, whether it's family or church or the Ferrari club or bocce ball, we used to play a lot when we were kids. Yeah. And I was
call
listening
somebody up.
Call somebody. Hey man, what are you doing? You want to get together and play ball, play baseball, throw. And we didn't think anything of it. It was totally natural. Now if one of my friends called me up to play baseball, I'd be like, your dog died? Yeah. Okay. Let's go play catch, right? But I think I do have a handful of friends that I desperately lean on for my own sanity and mental health. And, we're not here to tell you should have friends. You know that. We're not here to tell you how to do your job at work. But I do think that we can provide through this medium a little bit of friendship, a little bit of community, a little respite from your day, and Jessica and I like to talk, so we do that. We do it regularly, and Andrew likes to edit. Thank goodness he does, because I don't think I'd be able to figure out how to do it if the podcast needed me to ship it every week. But when I think about this community, and it's a few hundred, 200 or 300 people now, and thousands through the reels that we do. When I think about this community, I think about each and every one of you sitting, listening to this, having a cup of coffee, going for a drive, putting it in the tape deck, the converter in your car, or listening to it on the train while you're traveling. And I think about the fact that, we love people. We do this podcast because we love people. I love people at work. They don't all love me. I can tell you that for sure. But we love people. We love interacting. We love laughing and playing and joking around, and we do it on camera, we do it off camera, we do it with our kids, we do it when no one's looking, we do it with our friends, we do it at church. And this podcast has been an important outlet, I think, for me personally to be able to say, hey, I'm a human dude, just a regular guy.
No. Sitting
here in my chair inside of this mock-up studio that we built in our garage a couple of years ago, and it's nice to have the idea that we get to say something and put it into a written or a recorded format to where people will be listening to it down the road.
Well, as the saying goes, a 3-cord strand cannot easily be broken. So if you are feeling as if you would like to reach out and become a part
reach out
of what we're doing, a part of the community, if we can be a part of your community, if we can help you. And you know, one of my husband's favorite things in the whole world to do is to connect people and to help people get connected. And you know, you love it. You're like, hey, you know, if you got logs over there, as Brian Regan says, and need logs over there.
Two log trucks passing each other on the freeway. You got a bunch of logs over here and a bunch of logs over there.
Wouldn't a phone call save some time?
Wouldn't a phone call
But you do. You're so good at that. You're like, you know, so-and-so needs a job in, you know, in something, and so-and-so, you know, wants a job, you know, so-and-so has a job, and then you connect them. So if there's any way that we can help you get connected.
No guarantees,
but we do enjoy connecting people and making sure that you guys feel like you're not alone. You're not alone, and helping you get through the grind, the corporate grind. Please reach out, let us know. And thank you always for liking, subscribing, sharing, and supporting the Jeff Heilman Project.
We're here for you.
We love you guys. Have an awesome rest of your week. And hopefully that cooler temperature comes and we can all wear those sweaters like we so desperately want to. And get into those Uggs.
What's the Instagram guy with the Jeep? We got a shout out.
KJP, man.
If you haven't seen KJP, he came up in my feed because I started gramming. And he is.
It's the most aesthetically pleasing fall
thing.
Do
people actually live like this?
He does.
Like KJP?
Anyways,
KJP.
God bless you guys. Have an awesome rest of your week. Bye-bye.